We used to drive on the left-hand side of the road. Now we drive on what's left of the road.
Yeah. Plus minus 20 million South Africans who are there for the taking. But probably half of them might not turn out to vote if I don't reach them. So must I now go and spend money on research on those who are going to vote? No. I've got to go out to those who are registered to. There's 27 million. The 20 who are not going to vote for the ANC. It is my responsibility to capacitate my activists to go house to house, go and sell them our policies, go and actually show them that it is only through voting that they can change their lives. They're not voting for us, they're voting for their future and the future of their children.
The State of the Nation team is very excited to announce a partnership with Pace Car Rental. Pace Car Rental is one of the fastest growing car rental businesses in South Africa, with branches all over the country. They've got branches in Sandton, Kempton Park, Pretoria, Mhlanga, Gqeberha. Wherever you are, Pace Car Rental is there as well. A bold podcast like the State of the Nation needs a bold partner. And we have found that partner in Pace Car Rental. So why don't you support them? As South Africa heads towards the 2024 general election, we have tried hard to catch up with senior people in all the parties, and there's nobody more senior in ActionSA than the leader of the party, Mr. Herman Mashaba, one of our long-time guests. Herman, welcome back to the State of the Nation. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mike, and to really like to apologize for not coming on time. I know you've been trying to get hold of me. The last month it's been crazy. Unfortunately, the last 6 weeks or so, I'm lucky if I spend 1-2 days at home. I'm traveling the whole country, outside the country. It's been quite difficult, but at the same time, it's a necessary project. I'm tired, but I'm going to soldier on in preparation for 2020, for 29th of May. It's a do or die for my country, and I'm going to do everything possible to save this country.
Well, I've remarked on a couple of occasions about the amount of work that the ActionSA are doing, the structures that you've built have been astounding. I mean, it's a proper party with structures and branches and representation in every corner of the country, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. But I don't know if you are aware, yesterday come across my Limpopo premier chairperson bought by MK, and sent me a letter to say he's resigning because of resources. And fortunately, by that time, I had intel that he's talking to MK, and called a Senate meeting. I don't play. Called Senate meeting, and this morning decided to put someone else in his place, because honestly, I cannot really believe someone who can leave ActionSA to go to a Zuma camp. That actually shows how deep problems we've got as a country, that someone just over a week or so ago was there talking about Phala, and now you go to Jacob Zuma. So that really shows you we've got major challenges. But I think we need to demonstrate to South Africans as political parties that when issues like this happen, we must have the courage to act, and act as a matter of agency, because there's just no way that you can allow something like this. But fortunately enough, we deal with these matters, and I'm excited, Mike. On Monday, I'm announcing what I call Team Fix South Africa. You'll see the type of names I've got. Real high-powered South Africans. I'm allowed announcing them as the team. When South Africans give us the mandate to be government, they will see the type of cabinet I'll put together for South Africa.
Well, Herman, we've obviously been monitoring. We had our very first discussion straight after your announcement that you were starting a political party, and we've seen it grow. We've been along. You did, you surprised everybody back in 2021 when you only contested a handful of municipalities, but you did really, really well. And the difficulty I see is that the pollsters don't know what to do with you, right?
Well, posters, look, I think they are propaganda polls. I mean, honestly, they're smoking something. When you buy into your own propaganda, there's not much anyone can do about it. I mean, the very same people who polls which misread us in 2021. A party at the time, 1 year old, you remember we contested as a logo, and they think we surprised them. If they thought we surprised them, wait until they see us this year. Because this year I've had 3 years to prepare for this. And I can tell you I'm ready for these elections. And if anyone who can ignore us at your own peril.
Now, you had your manifesto launch. You've
no, we've not had a manifesto. We had a policy conference.
Yes.
The manifesto launch is on the 23rd of this month.
Okay, so the policy conference. But we've seen your policies come out. They are business friendly. They are very progressive in the true sense, not in the. Progressive is used very incorrectly in South Africa, isn't it? Where people claim progress.
Well, I think let me just give you an example, Mike, and I say this with pride as a South African, that we the first political party new to contest the elections. All the parties talk about having problems with Triple B of 2003. We're the first party that has openly in front of us, because our policy was open to the media throughout, where we are saying, South Africans, give us an opportunity. We are going to bury this BEE, but we've come out with an alternative. We are not saying we will destroy the Triple B, but we're coming out with an alternative of our own policy called inclusive economic empowerment, because the black people were discriminated against during apartheid, colonialism, including the brutality of the ANC broad-based black economic empowerment of 2003. That policy must be buried in an unmarked grave. We want a policy that can unite South Africans. No South African is going to be discriminated against on the basis of race or gender. But at the same time, we are saying to the business community, instead of being subjected to this massive administrative burden, instead of being forced to have partners you don't need, no, you operate your business. But we, as ActionSA, in our policy, we're going to have what we call an opportunity fund. You contribute a percentage of your profits for 30 years. And we give this project 30 years because it took 30 years of ANC to destroy our country, so that we can go and build schools in the black townships. We can fund the black entrepreneurs to start businesses at terms better than what the banks can offer. We can go and build clinics, boarding schools and so forth, so that not Herman Mashaba's children can benefit out of this. I can tell you in terms of of this inclusive economic empowerment of us and the opportunity fund, and this fund is going to be run by professional people. We make it clear Herman Mashaba's children will not qualify to be beneficiaries of this. Why Herman Mashaba's children cannot benefit out of this? Herman Mashaba can afford to take his kids to any university, to any private school and whatever. This must go and really benefit those that ANC has punished over the last 30 years. Those for 70 years, the National Party excluded from economic activity. And make sure that in 30 years' time, every village, every township must have accountants, must produce accountants, engineers, and so forth. And that's where we're going to invest. And but not really force businesses to comply to all this cumbersome broad-based black economic empowerment of the ANC.
And obviously, Herman, you've got outstanding business credentials. You've built up, a very successful business, so you understand what is needed for business. And obviously, one of the biggest issues that we're grappling with is the one of electricity. Right? And I mean, you're not an engineer, and neither am I. But what do you think? How would you handle the situation of our power shortage, because we won't have economic growth unless we get power back?
Before I address the electricity matter, which I think it's important, I had a press conference actually the other day at the offices of Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, where I presented a 9-point plan on how we can deal with the electricity. But let me tell, before I deal with this, to tell you, South Africans are being misled to think we have an electricity problem. We have a genocide problem. 86 South Africans have been murdered every single day in this country. These are reported cases. Genocide is happening right now when our government doesn't really care. It's not an issue for them. For me, I cannot really. You can have ESCOM working, you can have business working, but when your lives are at stake, you're being murdered. Every 11 minutes in this country, Mike, a woman is raped. We've opened our borders to South Africa is the playground of international drug cartels, where they come in to destroy the potential of our youth, and in the process, destroy our families. So I think I want to really bring this into perspective to you, because, South Africans, sometimes we tend to really look at things from what's out there on the headline news. We forget about our safety. I don't want to live in a country where 86 of us are being murdered every single day, and we have a minister of police running from one crimes into the other, not coming out with a plan on how they're going to protect our lives. Coming back to the issue of electricity, I think ESCOM has got a crisis. We've got, obviously, the wrong party in the first place to deal with the challenges of this country. The first order of business for South Africans is, let's remove this government, because you're not going to solve electricity problem or any of South Africa's problem for as long as you've got an ANC government in power. That's the first order of business. Once we take over government, dealing with ESCOM, we've got to put in the professional people to run ESCOM. We need to encourage private sector investment to compete with ESCOM. We need localized grids. 2 weeks ago, I was in the Free State in Frankfurt. This municipality, I don't know if you're aware about this municipality. 10 years or so ago, they were unable to collect electricity from the residents, then came out with a tender. Private company won a tender to collect on their behalf. This company invested in solar. Today, as I'll speak to you right now, they are producing 75% of their own electricity. 75%. And actually, they can go up to 100%. ESCOM and the ANC, it's actually preventing them, including actually one thing, ANC has been trying lots of tricks to cancel their contract because they've seen an opportunity for them to make money. So what I'm trying to say, there are examples of what it actually can really be done in terms of dealing with localized grid. So we've got a living example. We can go to Frankfurt, the private sector investments in a country with this heat. Solar is obviously another solution. Allow the private sector to invest in that area. You've got to deal with corruption. You cannot allow people destroy our economy and our infrastructure without having the consequences. These are some of the things. I can really go through this one, but I know you don't really have the time. But I disclose our energy solutions that we've submitted to Department of Minerals and Energy I think on Tuesday or Monday. I don't know today.
Yeah. Well, they don't seem terribly interested in solutions, do they?
No,
I mean,
in fact, I said this in front of getting the department people listening. We had big speakers outside. I said one thing that South Africans must understand: ANC is not in government to save South Africa. ANC is in government to loot. So if you are looking for solutions from the ANC, you are looking for the wrong the political party. ANC will never be interested in providing public services to this country, because that's not what got them into in politics in the first place.
Yeah. Now, to go back, we've spoken about electricity, and basically it's a matter of, one would imagine, if you look at the numbers, and there's been a lot of numbers out, basically, just how poorly those facilities are being managed. There was this German report about our power stations, and it was frightening, because really they talk about the state of the plants, not just in a technical sense, but they said these things can't operate because they're so dirty. So, no consequence management.
No, absolutely not. Because, when these people wake up every morning and go to work, and they don't go and work to fix the country. They go and work to see opportunities. I mean, just an example I told you about this private company in Frankfurt, which is... at the time when they won the tender, the municipality was collecting 5% revenue from electricity. Today they collect up to 95%. But now, obviously, ANC has now identified this as an opportunity. They want to terminate the contract. Fortunately enough, those guys have got a 25-year contract, but ANC is trying everything possible to terminate this. They've got, and what makes me angry as a South African, this now private company has got to spend money all the time with lawyers to go and really defend their contracts, because ANC has seen an opportunity. Instead of actually helping these people, this municipality help this private company to produce 100% of their own electricity, because they have got the expertise and the capacity, so that you can take the load from Eskom, then Eskom can go and supply that 25% somewhere else. No. Not at ANC. Now they see this business is making money. They are saying, no, we want it ourselves. And they'll take over within 6 months. That business is will be liquidated.
Now, just to go back, you raised the issue. We were going to get there after electricity, but we got there a little bit earlier, and that is of the terrible crime problem, murder you mentioned. I think to put it into context, when we went to the International Court of Justice to lay a case of genocide against Israel, at that point, as many Palestinians had been killed as what South Africans get killed each year. So it just shows you, as you say, that we were shouting genocide, but in the meantime, as you say, there is a genocide in South Africa. 86 people a day works out to about 20,000 people per year that are murdered, with very few convictions, very few... do you think that the police force, as run into the ground by Becky Taylor, is redeemable?
Yes, it is. Fortunate enough, we still have professional policemen and women who unfortunately are trained, are retired. Majority of them are today in the private sector. So we have, I've already begun the process of identifying them to really bring them back into the police force and really get rid of the cadres of the ANC who have absolutely no clue whatsoever, who are holding senior positions in the police, so that the police can be led by men and women who were firstly properly trained. They know what policing is. Unfortunately, they are led by people with no training whatsoever. I mean, look at what happened with Panyaza Disufi, with Panyazas. Take people of the street, NC people of the streets, train them in a football ground for 3 months, and you give them guns and BMWs. I mean, a crazy situation. So I think we have to professionalize the system. You remember when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, I found a way, as soon as I took over, with the level of corruption which was there, I re-established an independent forensic unit, and I managed to get the services of a professional person. So the guys who were there running the Scorpions, we need to get them back, because we need to specialized units to deal with corruption, whether we call them Scorpions, whatever, but we need the Chapter 9. We need, I don't know, Mike, how old you are. I grew up on the days in South Africa when we had the Brixton Maiden Robbery Squad. I can tell you, criminals, you murder someone in this country, if your case is given to the Brixton Maiden Robbery Squad, I can tell you the guy will go and hand himself in. We need those units. We can't just live in a country where 86 people are murdered each day. Reported cases where every 11 minutes a woman is raped. We need special units so that we deal with this. I can tell you, and I'm unapologetic, I'm not going to apologize to anyone. Drug dealers, not the users. We will invest in the drug rehab center. But I can tell you, personally, if South Africans give me the mandate to govern this country, drug dealers, I'm going to lead the raids myself. We identify someone bringing drugs into this country, they will ever regret ever having set their foot in this country.
Now, you've mentioned in there also, we spoke about, and you've been very, very firm on re-establishing border controls.
Without any doubt. I think one thing that South Africa must understand is that this country was built at the back of migrants, and we must continue building and encouraging people of the world to come to South Africa. But people must come here legally, and when they are here, they must respect our laws. You know, just there are 2 days ago, I heard on radio some international visitors. A woman was raped. There's a case in White River. Someone sent me this information on Sunday. 2 weeks ago, the international visitors going to the Kruger Park landed at Nelspruit. On their way, stopped in one of the shops at night. They got robbed. Up to today, the police have not reported this particular matter. I've not had a chance to deal with this, but I've got the details, including passport numbers and names of these victims. We can't really live in a society like this. Allow people into our country. I'm dealing with a case of a Nigerian in Primrose, been in South Africa for 10 years, involved in murder, involved in hijacking of houses of South Africans, involved in drug dealing. Our law enforcement agencies, including the courts, give this guy bail. I mean, it's honestly, we have to be a mad nation to allow this kind of madness and chaos to think that we can grow an economy, because there's no way you can ever build a sustainable economy in an environment of chaos. So the chaos that is here caused by this illegal immigration will stop under ActionSA.
Yeah. Now, fitted into that is a legal system which does, have is very respectful to people's rights, whether they are, we have procedures. There's no ways of shortcutting that, is there?
Well, Mike, one thing people must understand, when our constitution was drafted and adopted in 1996, wasn't crafted to protect criminals. The constitution of this country, in terms of human rights, victims are also huge. They deserve to get human rights. Mm-hmm. What has happened over the last 20 years since the adoption of this constitution, we focus too much where so-called human rights lawyers and NGOs were pumped money to protect criminals and forgot about the rights of law-abiding citizens. I can tell you, I have no time for criminals. I'm not prepared to coexist with criminals. So we will make sure that the constitution of our country, when it comes to human rights, must be the human rights to protect law-abiding citizens of our country.
Yeah, and it's there anyway, isn't it?
It is there, but
you don't need to change the constitution. We just need to apply it.
Absolutely, we need benefactors to understand that we cannot allow a situation where we think this Bester criminal, what is it called? Thabo Bester. We must worry about the rights of Thabo Bester. But what about the women he raped and murdered? Don't they have rights, their families? I think, for me, honestly, and I'm not unapologetic to South Africans, that I don't want to coexist with criminals. Murderers, rapists, the drug lords who come and destroy the future of our youth. I'm angry, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone that I'm prepared to rehabilitate them. I can tell you, once we arrest them, to go through the normal judicial system, if found guilty, those people will never get parole. We passed it during our policy conference that there will be no parole for rapists, murderers, and drug dealers. If you are sentenced to life like Thabo Bester, you're going to, even if you're going to die at 90, you'll never see outside of jail. And over and above that, we are not going to provide you free accommodation, free meals. No. I can tell you, you're going to work our fields. You're going to pay back to society. And with these so-called human rights lawyers and NGOs who wants to protect these criminals at the expense of law-abiding citizens, I'm prepared to engage them and really see who's going to really win this battle. Because I'm going to fight for the rights of law-abiding South Africans, make sure that they're protected. You murder a South African, I can tell you, we will hunt you. That's why we will have specialized units of professional South Africans to make sure that you murder South African, we're going to hunt you.
Now, you mentioned earlier the Scorpions. Certainly a body to deal with corruption or high-profile crime.
Without any doubt, and it'll be one of our priorities. The Scorpions, Brixton, Med and Robert, whatever we're going to call them. But just to give you an example, we've got to have special units to deal with drug lords. We've got to chase the drug lords out of South Africa. We must be brutal. We must not show any sympathy. Don't tell me about Ubuntu when someone is killing our nation. Go and practice that Ubuntu somewhere else. So we will have specialized units, and we will ensure that the specialized units are headed by South Africans. That is why for us, this race-based legislation will do away with it. We are not going to appoint people in positions because of on a basis of race or gender. People will be appointed on positions on the basis of the merit and what they can deliver for South Africa.
Earlier, we spoke about Panyaza Lesufi here in Gauteng. You obviously are based in Gauteng. You're the mayor of Johannesburg. The ANC things are not looking good for them in Gauteng. Looks like they might lose the province based on
Why do you say they might? We're not going to have an ANC government in Gauteng.
But now the current premier, as he still is at the moment, seems to be doing stuff and pulling out all the stops, right? It looks to me like some of those things that he's doing may not quite pass muster.
Well, I was in Soweto a few days ago. Even yesterday, I was in Soweto. I spent most of my Tuesday in Soweto, engaging with thousands of people. I can tell you, the people of Soweto are not fools. People of Soweto are heartful. Old people, young people, they're ready to vote and vote this nonsense out. I can tell you.
But does it look right, Herman, that he's just employing people willy-nilly, creating new police forces and creating new teaching assistants and things like that? Where's the money coming from for this?
That's what the people of Soweto are asking when they're being murdered or when their shops are taken by foreign nationals. They don't know who they are. The drug dealers are destroying the youth. Unemployment, it's high. People waiting. I went to Jabulani Mall, and it'll break your heart. Old people. By the time I went to see them was about 11. Says they've been queuing from 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're not sure what time they will ever get help. Old people for their pensions, and you think you can fool them with their mapanyazas. I can tell you. One thing for sure is that people have got a lived experience and the brutality of ANC. So you're not going to fool them any longer. So ANC can really forget about Gauteng.
So now let's turn our attention to the prospects for ActionSA. We mentioned earlier about pollsters, and I want to not quite give them a free ride here, but it's very, very difficult to understand where ActionSA is in the whole electoral system at the moment, because you don't have a track record. You didn't stand in the last general election. And
we were not there. In fact, there was not even a thought at the time. I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg under the DA.
And you were, you participated to a very limited degree in the last local government election. So it's a question now of asking you. You're on the ground. You're out there doing all this work. I hate to think how many kilometers you've racked up in your car, which I must say to people watching us today, Herman Mashaba is one of the few leaders that pitches up here without security guards and fanfare and support vehicles.
I just paid 86,000 rand for my car service at the rate at which it has been knocked out to a lot of the traveling. Actually looks like, when I started Black Like Me for roughly 15 years, I used to do plus minus 10,000 kilometers a month, but on good roads. Right now, what is creating problems with my car is because of the state of our roads. When travel on provincial roads in this country, I don't know, if 4x4s, they won't make it. I think we will have to really end up using some helicopters or something, because honestly, the only time you can drive safely on the roads is on national roads. Provincial roads, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I've just spent 86,000 rand last week because of traveling on bad roads. Last Friday, actually, I had a puncture in one of the places in Mpumalanga. And only to discover, I was at that time, my car was still with Mercedes-Benz, so I had to use my wife's car. And the car is about 6 months old. Even with us, we didn't realize that that car does not have a spare wheel. So we had to get to drive it to the nearest place where we could really help with a flat tire. That is South Africa for you.
Yeah,
this is the lived experience, and then you've got Cyril Ramaphosa who says we must celebrate.
Yeah. But we also, what do they say about driving in South Africa? We drive on the left hand. We used to drive on the left-hand side of the road. Now we drive on what's left of the road.
Yeah.
But Herman, let's talk about ActionSA. You've done a lot of work. You've covered a lot of ground. You haven't turned down interviews. You've been out there. Your team has been put together, and it's a solid team. What is your expectation? Where can people look out for good performances from ActionSA?
Look, I think it's an academic exercise I'm giving you, because one thing that you must understand, Mike, is that IEC, after voting, when they do the counting, they don't care how many polls you ran. Yes. They don't care how many times you filled up stadiums. Yes. They don't care. Those factors are not brought into the equation.
Doesn't matter if you won on Twitter.
So when they count the number of people who came in to vote.
Yes.
So whatever I'm going to give you, it's an academic exercise, because
we don't know.
We don't know. But personally, as Herman Mashaba, if ActionSA does not emerge as the second biggest political party in South Africa, I'll be devastated with the work that we're doing as a team. I'll be devastated. Honestly, we would have underperformed.
Yeah.
And one thing for sure is that Gauteng ActionSA will be the biggest party. If we don't become a biggest party in Gauteng, then I'll blame myself that I didn't work hard.
Well, those are some fairly big predictions, and other areas where.
But obviously this is based on the work that I'm not really basing it on theory. I'm basing on the work that I do.
Yes.
Because I've been around. I've made decisions. I can tell you in my life. When I started Black Dog Mean, conceived the idea in 1984, I didn't have any researcher to tell me the hair care industry. It's a massive industry that's going to be there for a long time or forever. And when I joined politics and accepted to be the mayoral candidate for the DA, they never shared their research with me. They had nothing to do. One thing I knew, that the people of Gauteng were hurtful, of Johannesburg, and DA needed a strong person to unseat. And obviously, when I realized that the DA did not really have someone who can knock them, I said, Herman, if it's not you, it's who else? And I did not need the research to know that people of Gauteng were hurtful, of Johannesburg.
Yes.
And what did we do? And look at what we did in 2021. Ask my team. You talk to Michael Bierman from time to time, our chairperson. So in 2021, I refused to spend a cent on research. I said, Michael, why must I spend money? We don't have the money to spend on research. Spend money on sending people into every house to go and tell people to go and vote. Yeah. So. And look at what we achieved. So every cent that we get from good South Africans who are prepared to help us, I can tell you I'm not going to spend their money and my money on research. I'm going to spend money on making sure that I can get my activists to go to every house, every street in Soweto, every street in Haramut, every street in Polokwane, in Ukwamashu. The more money I can get, we've got 280,000 volunteers that I need to resource, give them stipends, give them the tools of trade. I'm not going to spend money on research. One thing I know, South Africans are hurtful. South Africans don't want the ANC. So why must I spend money on that? So I think I want to spend money on ensuring that I can get the voter turnout, a bigger voter turnout. Because I can tell you, ANC is in government today because of people not voting. For the first time, 27.7 million South Africans are registered to vote. 27% for the first time since 1994. And now let's take ANC. Will ANC get over 8 million people to vote for them? There's no chance that ANC will get over 8 million people to vote for them. So there's 20 plus minus 20 million South Africans who are there for the taking. But probably half of them might not turn out to vote if I don't reach them. So must I now go and spend money on research on those who have to vote? No. I've got to go out to those who are registered to. There's 27 million. The 20 who are not going to vote for the ANC. It is my responsibility to capacitate my activists to go house to house, go and sell them our policies, go and actually show them that it is only through voting that they can change their lives. They're not voting for us, they're voting for their future and the future of their children.
And you're single-minded, similarly, if you're not spending time and resources in getting research and polls, you're also not spending a lot of time on monitoring your other competitors in this race. It's up to them what they do.
Look, I always tell our team when I engage with them, guys, let's focus on things we can control. And that's really how I run my life. I'm 64 years, so I'm not a young man. I'm a senior citizen of this country. I've got a little bit of experience. It might not really mean much to some people, but it's an experience that for me it's valuable. And things that I cannot control, I'm not going to waste my time on. I focus on things that I can control.
Now, Herman, you mentioned your age. That is still very young compared to Jacob Zuma, who is now back on the scene. He is seemingly has nothing better to do. What do you make of MK and that whole idea of Jacob Zuma back on the scene?
I actually pray that ANC does not win the case to stop MK from contesting. And I pray that MK can get the right numbers for IEC, because MK can only take votes from the ANC and EFF, and that, they can't get votes from anyone else. So personally, selfishly, I pray that they can constitutionally qualify to contest, because they can only take votes from the ANC and EFF.
And the threats of violence, do you think anyone should take that seriously?
Look, we can't ignore it, but at the same time, I don't really believe that we need to have sleepless nights about it. Look, we're sitting with a very weak criminal justice system, or law enforcement agencies, being led by one of the weakest the leader of this country. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa is one of the weakest leaders any nation can be subjected to. But at the end of the day, you know what? We faced challenges in the past. We're not scared of apartheid. In 1994, we thought South Africa was going to collapse, there's going to be civil war, and God intervened. And I don't think we need to. I'm not really losing a sleep because of MK. In fact, I see them as an opportunity, and I hope that they can contest, because if they can constitutionally contest, they can only weaken the ANC, because that's the only place they can get votes from.
And lastly, we have dealt quite extensively in the past and spoken a lot about the multi-party charter that you're an integral part of. That happened. That is in place, but it takes a backseat to the elections now. Are you happy with the way that the multi-party charter is looking ahead of the election, even though, you run your race, your partners run their race?
Not really. The multi-party charter has not taken the back seat. And in fact, last week, we had a press conference at Kelvin Power Station, where each party was presenting their plans on how to deal with Eskom. We had a press conference about a month ago at the Durban Harbour, to deal with our economic policies and so forth. And we've got a few joint events planned. But at the end of the day, every party has to contest on its own and get as many votes as possible, so that we can bypass the 50+1 hurdle. So I think it's important for the voters to know, because sometimes some of them are under the impression they're going to be voting for a party called multi-party charter. No. For us as ActionSA, we're saying no. We don't want to share our vote with anyone. Please give us an outright majority so that we can govern on our own. Is it possible? I think we'll be asking too much. It is for that reason, this insurance of having a multi-party charter, it's important, so that at least people can have an alternative. The reason why South Africans are not voting is because they did not have an alternative before. But ActionSA is here, and we've demonstrated in 2021 elections that South Africans are excited about us. And we will show them in just under 90 days' time. Yeah. South African politics are going to be different to what they are today.
So when my recent guest here, JJ Tabani, said that the multi-party charter, as he does in his very animated way, the multi-party charter is dead in the water. You want to say to him, what is your message to him?
Well, I can say to Mr. Tabani, this is not an academic the matter. the police just really follow what's happening out there. The South African future is not going to be decided upon by academic analysis. South Africa's problems are going to be solved on the ground, and we are on the ground working, and we are happy to work with other parties in the event we don't get outright majority.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The future of South Africa may in fact be ActionSA Green. If you like what Herman Mashaba is telling us, there's an alternative for you. People that say that this election, that it's not worth voting, we've said it many times on the show, it's very, very definitely worth voting. And there's a party out there that appeals to you. If you want a party that is strong on law and order, strong on business, and does away with some of the discriminatory laws, ActionSA could very well be worth a look. So I'd like to thank Herman Mashaba for joining us here on the State of the Nation. It's always great to have you here. Everybody that's joined us, please subscribe to the channel. Herman, we'll see you again. Best of luck as you tear up and down the country. And good luck for the election. And to everybody that's joined us, thank you so much. And we'll see you the next time on the State of the Nation.